Maya Thompson stood in front of her bathroom mirror, adjusting her blazer for what felt like the 100th time. The fabric was a deep navy blue that contrasted beautifully with her rich, chocolate skin. It was professional yet stylish, a reflection of her personality. Today was the day she had been waiting for, a press conference for a major political figure in Washington, D.C. Her heart raced with excitement and anxiety as she practiced her questions under her breath. She was determined to make an impression, not just as a journalist, but as a black woman in an industry that often overlooked talent like hers. "Maya, you've got this," she whispered, forcing a smile at her reflection. "Just be yourself." Arriving at the venue, the grandeur of the building took her breath away. The imposing columns and polished marble floors echoed the weight of the occasion. Journalists and cameras buzzed around her like bees in a hive, each one vying for a moment of attention. She inhaled deeply, attempting to quell the fluttering in her stomach. As she made her way through the sea of reporters, she could hear snippets of conversation, fragments of questions that would soon fill the air. "Did you hear about the new policy changes?" one journalist asked. "Yeah, but will it actually make a difference?" another scoffed. Maya felt a surge of energy as she approached the podium, ready to seize her moment. However, just as she was about to position herself for a better view, an older, white male journalist brushed past her, his eyes narrowing as he spotted her. "Hey, can you grab me a coffee?" he said dismissively, assuming she was an assistant rather than a colleague. The word stung like a slap to the face. Maya's cheeks flushed, and she felt a mix of humiliation and anger welling up inside her. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. Instead, she forced a smile, nodded, and stepped aside, her heart pounding in her chest. As she watched him walk away, a sense of determination ignited within her. She wouldn't let this moment define her. She would rise above it. After the press conference ended, Maya found herself huddled in a corner of the bustling press room, trying to process what had just happened. The atmosphere was thick with chatter, but her ears perked up when she overheard two colleagues discussing her. "Did you see Maya? She was literally just standing there." One of them snickered. "Yeah, I mean, how did she even get a press pass?" The other replied, their tone dripping with condescension. "She doesn't seem cut out for this." Maya's heart sank as she clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. They had no idea of the years of hard work she had put into her career, the countless late nights spent chasing stories that others deemed unworthy. The dismissive comments echoed in her mind, amplifying the frustration she felt bubbling to the surface. "Why do I even bother?" she muttered under her breath, her voice barely audible above the din. But as she stood there, the weight of their words pressing down on her, a fierce determination took hold. She would not let their ignorance dictate her worth. That night, Maya sat in her small apartment, the glow of her laptop illuminating the room. The rhythmic tapping of her fingers on the keyboard was the only sound breaking the silence. As she poured her heart into the article, she reflected on the biases she faced daily, how her abilities were often overlooked simply because of the color of her skin. "This needs to be said," she whispered to herself, her resolve strengthening with every word. "I can't stay silent any longer." The article began to take shape, each paragraph carefully crafted to expose the systemic discrimination she and many others faced in the industry. Maya knew that sharing her story could ignite a firestorm, but the thought of using her voice to advocate for change fueled her passion. As she hit save, a sense of catharsis washed over her. She was no longer just a bystander. She was ready to transform her pain into purpose. The journey ahead would undoubtedly be challenging, but Maya felt a surge of hope. She was ready to stand up, speak out, and make her mark in a world that desperately needed to hear her story. Maya Thompson sat at her cluttered desk, the glow of her computer screen illuminating the anxious lines on her face. She had just finished her article, a poignant piece that laid bare the discrimination she faced as a black journalist in a predominantly white industry. With trembling fingers, she hit the submit button, sending her words off to her editor, Thomas, a man known for his stern demeanor and cautious approach. Moments later, she heard a soft knock on her office door. It creaked open to reveal Thomas, his brow furrowed as he stepped inside. "Maya," he began, his voice low and measured, I read your piece. It's powerful. But he hesitated, searching for the right words. Are you sure you want to go through with this? It could cause quite a stir. Maya's heart raced. I have to, Thomas. It's time we address the elephant in the room. The industry needs to see the truth. He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. I understand your passion, but I worry about the backlash. This isn't just about you. It's about our publication, too. Then let's start the conversation, she implored, her voice steady despite the anxiety churning inside her. If we don't, things will never change. After a long pause, Thomas finally nodded. All right, I'll publish it, but keep an eye on your social media. It's going to get intense. Maya felt a rush of relief mixed with trepidation. She knew the risks involved, but believed wholeheartedly in the importance of her message. As Thomas left her office, she couldn't help but wonder what the next few days would bring. When the article was published, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Notifications flooded her phone, a cacophony of likes, shares, and comments. Maya's heart raced as she read through the initial reactions. Some praised her courage, while others were quick to criticize, dismissing her experiences as exaggerations. Look at this, she said aloud, turning her screen toward her colleague Jenna, who had just walked in. People are actually engaging with it. Jenna skimmed the comments, her expression shifting from curiosity to concern. Wow, Maya, you've stirred the pot. Just be prepared for the trolls. Not everyone will be kind. I know, Maya replied, her voice tinged with determination. But if I can get even a few people to think differently, it'll be worth it. Days passed, and Maya found herself caught in a whirlwind of discussions on social media. News outlets picked up her story, and she received invitations to speak on various platforms. While the support was invigorating, the backlash was equally fierce. In the midst of the chaos, she found solace in the messages of encouragement from fellow journalists and activists. One afternoon, as she sat in a cafe with her laptop open, Maya received an unexpected call from a producer of a prominent news show. Maya, we'd love to have you as a guest next week to discuss your article. It's created quite a buzz, the producer said, excitement lacing her voice. Really? Wow, I'm honored. But I'm also nervous, Maya admitted, her mind racing with possibilities. Don't be. This is your chance to show the world your passion. We want to hear your story, the producer encouraged. After hanging up, Maya felt a mix of exhilaration and fear. Speaking on national television would be a significant platform, but the thought of facing critics live made her stomach churn. The days flew by, and before she knew it, it was the morning of her appearance. Standing in front of the mirror, she adjusted her blazer, trying to project confidence. You've got this, Maya, she whispered to herself, her reflection offering a reassuring nod. At the studio, the host greeted her warmly. Maya, we're thrilled to have you here. Your article has sparked a national conversation about race and inequality in journalism. How does that feel? Taking a deep breath, Maya replied, It feels empowering. We need to talk about these issues not just in journalism, but in every industry. It's about time we hold ourselves accountable. As the interview progressed, Maya spoke passionately about her experiences and the systemic discrimination that often goes unnoticed. Her words flowed with authenticity, resonating with viewers far beyond the studio walls. Later, as she walked out of the studio, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had taken a step forward, not just for herself, but for countless others who faced similar struggles. The road ahead was uncertain, but she was ready to embrace the challenges that lay in her path. As Maya Thompson settled into her routine, the weight of her newfound platform began to settle heavily on her shoulders. The article that had catapulted her into the national spotlight also drew unwanted attention. Late at night, she would scroll through her social media feeds, finding a mix of supportive messages and vitriol. The threats started as whispers, veiled in anonymity, but as the days passed, they grew louder and more aggressive. One night, while sitting at her kitchen table, Maya clenched her jaw as she read a particularly vicious comment. Shut up and know your place, Maya. You're just a bitter journalist trying to make a name for yourself. It was a reminder of the still embedded biases that lingered not just in the industry but in society at large. Yet, rather than succumbing to fear, she felt a familiar fire ignite within her. Determined to channel her anger into action, Maya began drafting a new piece, a reflection on the very nature of the threats she was receiving and how they were emblematic of the systemic issues faced by journalists of color. She knew that by exposing the hostility directed at her, she could shed light on the larger narrative of discrimination. Maya, her friend and fellow journalist, Jasmine, called out as she entered the apartment without knocking. "I brought snacks." Jasmine plopped a bag of chips onto the table, her eyes scanning Maya's face for clues. "You okay?" "Yeah, just the usual," Maya replied, attempting to downplay the weight of her thoughts. Jasmine furrowed her brow. "I saw some of those comments online. It's disgusting. You're not alone in this, We're all behind you." Maya managed a small smile, grateful for Jasmine's unwavering support. "I want to organize a support group for marginalized journalists. We could share our stories, strategies, everything. It could help us face this madness together." "I love that idea," Jasmine said, her enthusiasm palpable. "Let's do it. We can start reaching out to people in our networks. I know a few who would be interested." As they brainstormed, the conversation flowed seamlessly, filled with laughter and mutual respect. The atmosphere shifted from one of despair to empowerment, with each idea sparking another. In those moments, Maya felt a sense of possibility blossom in her heart. A week later, in a small, cozy coffee shop, Maya found herself surrounded by a diverse group of journalists, each with their own stories of struggle and resilience. The air buzzed with energy as they shared experiences that echoed Maya's own. "I was told I was too young to cover serious stories," a young journalist named Amir said, his voice steady yet laced with emotion. "They said I should stick to fluff pieces." Maya nodded, understanding all too well the sting of such dismissals. "It's not just about our work, it's about how they perceive us. It's systemic." As the group formed a circle, sharing their journeys, Maya felt a sense of belonging she had longed for. They were not just individuals fighting their battles in isolation. They were a collective force, united by shared experiences. "We need to amplify our voices," Maya urged. "Together, we can make a difference." The weeks rolled on, and the support group grew, becoming a haven where members could express their vulnerabilities without judgment. They shared resources, strategies for coping with harassment, and ways to navigate the often treacherous waters of their profession. Then came the night of the Journalism Award ceremony, a night that promised recognition and validation, but also a flood of anxiety for Maya. She had been nominated for a prestigious award for her impactful article, and as the date approached, she felt a whirlwind of emotions. In her quiet moments, she reflected on her journey, the initial humiliation at the press conference, the courage it took to speak out, and the connection she had forged along the way. "What if I'm not good enough?" she whispered to herself, her heart racing with self-doubt. "Stop that right now," Jasmine said, catching Maya in a moment of vulnerability as they prepared for the ceremony. "You earned this nomination. You're not just good enough, you're exceptional. Remember that." Maya looked into Jasmine's eyes, finding reassurance in her friend's unwavering belief. The night of the awards brought a sea of faces, some familiar, others new, all there to celebrate excellence in journalism. As Maya stood backstage, her heart pounded in her chest, the weight of the moment threatening to overwhelm her. "Just breathe," she reminded herself, focusing on the sound of her own heartbeat, steady and strong. This was more than just an award for her. It was a testament to the struggle she had faced and the voices she aimed to amplify. When her name was called, the applause swelled, and Maya stepped onto the stage, the spotlight illuminating her path. She took a deep breath, her heart full of hope and gratitude. This was her moment, and she was ready to embrace it, not just for herself, but for everyone who had stood beside her in the fight for equality and justice. Maya Thompson stood at the edge of the Grand Hall, her heart racing as she clutched her award nomination card, feeling the weight of expectation press against her chest. The annual Journalism Award ceremony was a glittering affair, with reporters and editors mingling, their laughter ringing through the air. But to Maya, Every smile felt like a mask, hiding the biases and discrimination she had fought against. As she scanned the crowd, her gaze landed on the familiar figure of Victor Hargrove, the senior journalist who had belittled her during the press conference. Victor was holding court, surrounded by a group of admirers, his laughter loud and boisterous. A wave of anger washed over Maya. She clenched her fists, the memory of his condescending tone echoing in her mind. The moment she had decided to stand up for herself was now intertwined with her career's most significant achievement. She took a deep breath, steeling herself to approach him. "Victor," she called, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. He turned, his expression shifting from surprise to a smirk. "Maya, I didn't expect to see you here. Congratulations on the nomination. I didn't think you had it in you." Maya squared her shoulders, refusing to let his words belittle her efforts. "You know, it's interesting how you mistook me for an assistant during that press conference. It seems you haven't changed much since then." His smile faltered slightly. "That was a misunderstanding, Maya. You know how hectic those events can be." "Misunderstanding? Is that what you call it?" Maya pressed, taking a step closer. "It's more than just a slip of the tongue. It's a reflection of how people like you see journalists like me, as less than." The surrounding crowd quieted, sensing the tension in the air. A few eager faces turned toward them, cameras clicking to capture the moment. Maya felt the adrenaline surge through her, emboldening her. She had fought too hard to let this opportunity slip away. Victor shifted uncomfortably, his bravado fading. "I didn't mean to offend." "Offend? No, you didn't just offend me. You disrespected me and countless other journalists who face this daily. We're not here to serve coffee. We're here to report the truth." Her voice rang clear, resonating through the room. "The industry is riddled with systemic issues that people like you perpetuate, and it's time we address them." Murmurs spread through the crowd as Maya continued, her passion igniting a fire within her. "How many times have we been overlooked or dismissed because of our race? How many talented voices have been silenced while you and others like you take center stage? It's time for change, and it starts with acknowledging the problem." Victor's expression hardened, but the crowd was no longer on his side. A few reporters nodded in agreement, recognizing the truth in Maya's words. The cameras captured every moment, and she felt the weight of the world shift slightly in her favor. "Maybe you should focus on your own shortcomings, Maya," Victor shot back, trying to regain control of the narrative. "Maybe you should focus on the impact of your words," she countered, her voice unwavering. "These aren't just criticisms. They're calls for accountability. The industry needs to change, and if you can't see that, then you're part of the problem." The tension in the room reached a boiling point, and Maya took a step back, her heart pounding. She had done it. She had confronted him publicly, and the moment was powerful, amplified by the cameras that recorded the confrontation for all to see. The applause that erupted from the crowd filled her with a sense of validation. After the ceremony, Maya stepped outside to catch her breath, the cool night air wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a call from a major news network, and she hesitated for just a moment before answering. "Maya Thompson?" A voice said on the line, filled with enthusiasm. "We've been following your story and are incredibly impressed with your bravery. We'd love to offer you a position as a lead reporter." Maya's heart raced, excitement flooding her senses. This was the opportunity she had dreamed of, a chance to amplify her voice further. Yet, as she listened to the details, a nagging doubt crept in. Accepting such a role meant stepping into the spotlight, a position that could expose her to even more scrutiny and backlash. "Thank you. I appreciate the offer," she replied, her mind racing. "But I need to consider what this means for my advocacy work." "Of course, take your time. We believe you have the potential to make significant changes in the industry," the voice encouraged. Maya hung up, staring into the distance. The weight of her decision loomed over her, a reminder that the fight was far from over. As she walked back inside, she felt a mixture of hope and apprehension, knowing that whatever path she chose would lead to new challenges, but also to the possibility of real change. Maya Thompson sat at her cluttered desk, the weight of her decision pressing heavily on her shoulders. She had accepted the offer from the major news network, a choice that promised to elevate her career but also thrust her deeper into the spotlight. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as she contemplated her next move. She needed a powerful story to cement her newfound position, something that would not only showcase her skills, but also continue her fight against the systemic discrimination she had encountered. Determined, she began working on an investigative piece that would delve into the pervasive issue of discrimination, not just in journalism, but across various industries. As she conducted interviews and gathered data, Maya felt a surge of purpose. She envisioned the impact her article could have, shining a light on the injustices faced by countless individuals. Days turned into weeks as Maya immersed herself in research. She met with experts, activists, and individuals who had faced discrimination firsthand. Each story she collected was a puzzle piece, and slowly, a larger picture began to emerge. Maya's heart raced with excitement as she connected the dots, revealing a network of powerful figures who had been perpetuating these injustices for years. One afternoon, she sat in a cafe, reviewing her notes. The atmosphere buzzed with the sounds of clinking cups and animated conversations. But Maya was focused, her mind racing with revelations. Just then, her phone buzzed with a message from an anonymous source. "You're onto something big. Look deeper into the board of directors for major media outlets," it read. A chill ran down her spine. This could be the lead she needed. As she followed the thread, her investigation took her down unexpected paths. She uncovered ties between influential media executives and various organizations that promoted discriminatory practices. The senior journalist who had disrespected her at the press conference was among them, a name that kept surfacing in her research. Maya's determination grew stronger. She could feel the weight of her mission pressing forward. However, just as she began drafting her findings, a sudden and devastating setback struck. Maya returned to her apartment one evening, weary but exhilarated from a day of uncovering truths. As she opened her laptop, her heart sank. The screen flashed an error message: data corrupted. Panic surged through her as she clicked frantically, desperate to recover her work. Hours of research, interviews, and vital documents had vanished. Frustrated, Maya called her friend and fellow journalist, Alex. "I can't believe this is happening," she exclaimed, her voice trembling. "All my data, it's gone. Someone has to be behind this." "Take a breath, Maya. We'll figure this out," Alex replied calmly. "Have you checked for backups?" "I thought I had everything saved," Maya replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I didn't expect anyone would try to sabotage me like this." "Let's meet up. We can brainstorm and see if we can piece anything together," Alex suggested. Maya agreed, but a nagging feeling of dread tightened in her chest. The stakes were higher than ever, and she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her, waiting for her to fail. In the following days, Maya's resolve only deepened. She reached out to her support group, a network of marginalized journalists who had faced similar struggles. They met in a small, dimly lit conference room, and as she shared her setback, the room filled with solidarity. "We've all been there," one member said, a former editor who had faced harassment in her career. "We can help each other. Let's gather what we can and see if we can retrace your steps." Maya looked around the room, seeing the fierce determination in their eyes. "Thank you, all of you. I won't let this stop me. We're going to expose the truth, one way or another." With renewed strength, Maya and her group began to reconstruct her investigation. They pooled their resources, shared their insights, and devised a plan to confront the powerful individuals who had long operated behind closed doors. Each member brought a unique perspective, and together, they formed a formidable team. Maya knew this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about all the voices that had been silenced, all the stories that needed to be told. She glanced at her notes, brimming with potential, realizing that the fight for justice was far from over. Maya sat in the small conference room, the air thick with anticipation. Around her, the members of the support group, a motley crew of journalists, each with their own harrowing experiences, exchanged glances filled with determination. They had come together not just as friends but as allies, ready to take a stand against the insidious discrimination that had plagued their industry for far too long. "All right, everyone," Maya began, her voice steady yet tinged with urgency. "We need to gather everything we have on this network. We have to show the world that it's not just me. It's all of us." Jasmine, a seasoned reporter with striking dreadlocks, leaned forward, her eyes alight with conviction. "I've been documenting instances of bias in our newsroom for months. If we can compile those stories, it'll create a stronger narrative." Maya nodded, heartened by the resolve of her peers. "Exactly. Let's start pooling our resources. We need to show how deeply entrenched this problem is, not just in journalism, but across various sectors." As they brainstormed ideas, a sense of camaraderie enveloped the room. They exchanged anecdotes, each story a thread in the larger tapestry of systemic discrimination. Maya felt a surge of hope. Together, they were a force to be reckoned with. Later that week, while reviewing her notes, Maya stumbled upon something that made her stomach drop. She was sifting through old emails from her editor when a familiar name caught her eye: the senior journalist who had belittled her at the press conference. They had been exchanging correspondence about a possible collaboration. A sinking feeling settled in her chest as she realized the implications. "No, it can't be," she whispered to herself, pulling up a thread of emails. The evidence was damning. Her editor, who had initially hesitated to publish her article, was deeply entangled in the same network of individuals perpetuating discrimination. Heart racing, she called Jasmine. "You need to come over. I found something huge." Within the hour, Jasmine arrived, her brow furrowed in concern. "What is it, Maya?" Maya gestured for her to sit down. "I think our editor is part of this. The same group that's been undermining us. Look at this." She pulled up the emails and watched Jasmine's expression shift from confusion to realization. "This is worse than we thought," Jasmine murmured, her voice laced with disbelief. "We need to take this to the group. If we can prove it, we can expose the entire network." Fueled by a newfound urgency, Maya organized another meeting with the support group. As everyone gathered, she laid out the evidence, the atmosphere charged with tension and determination. "This isn't just about me anymore," she declared. "It's about all of us. We have to expose this corruption and hold everyone accountable." The group erupted into a flurry of discussions, strategizing their next steps. They decided to host a press conference, leveraging Maya's growing platform to amplify their message. On the day of the press conference, the room buzzed with reporters and cameras, the air electric with anticipation. Maya stood at the podium, her heart pounding. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "I stand before you not just as a journalist, but as a representative of all those who have faced discrimination in this industry." As she unveiled the evidence, revealing her editor's involvement alongside the senior journalist, gasps rippled through the audience. "This is not an isolated incident. This is a systemic issue that has been allowed to fester for far too long," she continued, her voice rising with passion. "Today, we demand accountability. We demand change." The crowd erupted in applause, and Maya felt a swell of pride. The aftermath was swift. News outlets picked up the story, and soon a nationwide investigation was launched. The senior journalist and her editor were put under scrutiny, their actions laid bare for all to see. Maya's courage resonated with many, and she became a beacon of hope, inspiring others to come forward with their stories. As she walked away from the podium, she could feel the weight of change settling around her, a testament to the power of resilience and the importance of using one's voice.